everyone. Welcome to another episode of It's About Damn Crime. I'm Brittany.
I'm Justine.
And I'm Scott.
Oh, he's back.
Scott's here, everyone.
Hello.
See, we didn't actually kill him.
Welcome to episode 87. If you guys are new, welcome. If you don't know what our show is about, we basically are...
It's about crime. Oh, no?
There you go. I mean, our title basically sums it up. We don't just talk about murder here, but we talk about cases that feature people of color. So whether it be cults, murder, what other type of crime is there?
Drug lords.
Drug lords. That usually...
Kidnappings.
I feel like drug lord cases usually include some type of murder, right?
Yeah.
Generally
Or
speaking.
drugs.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. So before we get started, a little update on our lives. I got transitions like the old lady that I am.
That's hella embarrassing. Do not wear those in front of me.
And I'm super jealous, dude. I'm super jealous of her
No,
transitions.
I swear to God, do not wear those in front of me.
I have to. They're my
They're
new
the
glasses.
most hideous things I've ever seen in my whole entire life. Why
Dude,
would you ever do that?
Imagine driving and you don't have to put on you don't have to take down the sun visor.
No, I don't care. They're so ugly. There's some things you shouldn't do in this life, and transitions are one of them. I don't want to talk to you anymore. This podcast is over. I was so disappointed in you.
No, they're glorious. I'm jealous.
Justine, don't be a hater.
You're going to look like a 1970s serial killer.
I love
and
it.
I can't. No.
She's going for the Jeffrey Dahmer look.
With just like a slight hue of tint
Yeah,
when you
yeah.
first come in the house. Ugh.
I love
hideous.
it. It's so
Sorry
great.
for your transitions. You should not.
You know what, Justine? Leave me alone. Okay.
Hey, did you guys hear that like 20 people got stuck in the Dre's elevator last night?
No. That's terrifying.
For 3 hours.
Damn.
At 3 o'clock in the morning.
Dang.
So that means they were all drunk leaving the club and got stuck in the elevator.
Having deja
That
vu.
sounds like us when we were in Cancun, me and Scott, and we got stuck in the elevator.
Hey, at least they got stuck in a Dre's elevator and not in the middle of fucking Mexico.
Oh my gosh, that was horrible. Yeah, I'm probably...
In like a sketch-ass hotel.
Yeah. Imagine how, like, all those people being in that elevator. Was it, like
drunk
just
as
one...
shit.
Was it just one elevator, or was it, like, two?
One elevator.
Damn, that's
No,
a lot
one
of people in
elevator.
one elevator.
That's a lot of people.
People. Yeah.
Jeez. It
Fuck.
was so...
Me and Brianna were talking about it this morning. I was like, that is literally my worst nightmare.
I was just
It
gonna
was
say.
creepy. I was like, can you imagine leaving the club? You're drunk. You're probably like, tight. Can't wait to go home. You get stuck. How bad do you have to pee?
Oh, no.
And you're in there for 3
That's a good point.
hours. Ugh. Freaks me out, man.
3 hours is a long time. I think me and Scott were only stuck in the elevator for maybe 30 minutes, maybe
Yeah,
about
wasn't too long.
30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes, but
Fuck that, man.
still, it was hot, and I had to rub him down with beer.
I was just about to say, it was long enough to have to be doused in beer because I was too hot.
The beer
Where?
was so cold.
And
Oh my
annihilated drunk.
God.
Yeah. We should have just
They
taken
had like
the
two
stairs.
sets of fire departments come, and they were like giving them water like down through the top of the elevator.
Oh
So they had water, but still, like, what if you had to fucking pee?
Yeah. Jeez.
That's crazy.
That's scary.
Ugh,
F that.
freaks me out. Freaks me out.
Jeez. I think that's about it on our lives.
Yeah, I've spent the past 48 hours binge watching The Good Doctor
Mm-hmm.
and crying.
Is that the one with
And
the main character's supposed to have autism or something?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's so good. And then I watched a lot of The Voice auditions today. That made me cry.
You
What?
and Brittany are back on your fucking reality TV bullshit, dude.
I've
Dude.
been crying like all weekend long. I don't know what's wrong with me. It's fine.
Next thing you know, you're going to watch that one where they dress up as mascots and you have to guess who's underneath or whatever the fuck it is.
Oh my god, I tried to
And
watch
it's gonna
that
make
and
me cry.
I couldn't do it.
It looks like the worst show on TV.
I could not do it at all.
I'm good.
But I did, however, get on the Bachelor bandwagon.
Oh my god, I've been thinking about watching it just because he's a virgin.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's so funny.
Dude, all these girls.
Is it good so far?
Oh my god. I've been like yelling
Do
at
you
the
hate
TV.
watching it?
I've been I've been hate
I can
watching
hear her
it.
from the other room.
Yeah.
Like, oh my
That's so
God. Ha 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 ha.
Or like he'll say something to her and I'm like, liar. Like just,
That's so
just
good.
basically talking shit to the TV is what I'm doing.
I think I have to start watching it.
Yeah. It's a good show to put on and then be on your phone and then just talk shit the whole time.
Yeah, I gotcha.
You know?
So you don't really have to pay attention.
Yeah.
Justine does that no matter what show she's watching.
This is true.
That's true. I have been doing that with The Good Doctor. There's certain things I catch, and that makes me cry.
I started up Supernatural again. So
Way to go.
I got to I'm on season 5.
Dang, that was pretty fast.
Yeah.
Shit, 8 hours a day. She could watch 8 episodes in a day.
Oh yeah, I've been watching it at work.
True.
So
That's the perfect thing to watch at work because you already know all the characters. You don't have to like fully watch what's happening. That's
Dude,
why I have to watch.
Brittany
TV shows.
finished Buffy. She's about to burn through Supernatural. I'm guessing that she's going to start watching Doctor Who at some point.
I don't know.
It seems like that type of show. I'm calling her right now.
You should watch the Good Doctor. There's only 2 seasons.
I might watch that. I heard it was really good. So
It's so good.
yeah, I might watch that.
What's the main character from that Bates Hotel or Motel?
yeah.
Is that the kid?
Yeah, and I honestly like started watching it just because I know Chris D'Elia had done a couple guest spots on it, and I was like, I want to see what this guy is doing in this very serious show.
I forgot he was in it.
Seemed like super out
Yeah.
of place.
No, they put him in the perfect spot. He plays himself,
Oh.
but in a little side role.
Nice.
Yeah,
I have to
it's pretty
watch
good.
it.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. Well, enough lolly.
I'm so excited.
Oh my god, yeah.
I love this story.
Oh my god. Okay, well, since you're so excited, are we ready to jump in?
Heck yeah.
Okay.
I wish that we could play like action music throughout this whole case.
Oh my god, me too.
I'll
wish we could-
cue up some Pirates of the Caribbean music.
Not the kind of action music we need, but cool. All right, guys. Here we go.
I was just about to sing the music from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
No, also not in theme. Very
Okay,
good, though.
sorry.
Scott, are you drinking a glass of white wine?
Your wine.
Yes. Your wine.
My white wine?
Yeah.
It's not very good, huh?
It's alright. It's strong.
Tastes like shit.
It's cheap wine. Like it tastes
Hell
like
yeah,
cheap wine.
that was a big ass bottle for like $7.
What's good about this kind of wine is if you want to go to bed early, have a couple glasses earlier in the night, and you'll be in bed by like 2-3 hours before you normally go to bed.
Yeah.
True. Okay, here we go. I'm ready now.
Yeah.
All right. So the Penitentiary of New Mexico was born in 1956. Or it was built, whatever. Usually these stories start with someone was born.
Yeah. No, the penitentiary was born. Like it was pushed out of a mommy
It's Mama
penitentiary.
Penitentiary's
Yeah.
vagina.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Her vagina.
Okay. Her vagina.
Her vagina.
It was... Oh, gross. It was designed to house around 980 prisoners, but in the late 1970s, due to stricter prison sentences in New Mexico, it was holding way more than that. We're going to tell you how many later.
Yeah.
The Penn, New Mexico had started housing more and more inmates in dormitories instead of actual cells on the south side of the prison. And these dorms were only meant to hold about 50 inmates. Okay, so these dorms, if you've seen Orange is the New Black, it's like that. Just like big giant rooms with beds in it.
Yep.
So they were only built to hold 50 inmates, but at the time, they were being forced to hold about 120 men.
Jeez.
Which is more than double.
It's like asking for some bullshit, like fights to go down and shit.
Heck yeah,
Yeah.
which they did.
Yep.
So one of the inmates that had been housed in one of the dormitories said that fights constantly broke out, that it was an issue to get to the bathroom because he would go at night and there was people all over the place and fights constantly were starting because you're always stepping on someone. And I don't know for sure, but I would assume that prisoners are pretty grumpy.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I know it went from like single beds to bunk beds and then like just people
Lined along the floors.
yeah, straight up sleeping on the floors.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
Gross.
Now the cell blocks, they were located on the north side of the prison, and that is where the most dangerous inmates were housed and segregated in cell block 3. In 1978, 25% of the prison population was being kept in cell block 3, which would have been over like 200 inmates. And that cell block 3 was only made to hold 86.
It's more than double.
Which is insane. Yeah, way more than double.
How many do you say? 200 something?
200. Okay. But it, it had over 200, but it was only meant to hold 86.
Okay. So then in cell block 3, they also had what was called, what the inmates referred to as the belly of the beast, which was solitary.
It's very ominous.
And, yeah. So 2 of the cells had no bed, no light, no toilet. There was nothing in it, just a hole in the ground that the prisoners had to use the restroom in. There was like a little door in front of the window, and they would lock that up so they would be in complete darkness, silence for 10 to 15 days at a time.
Damn.
They were fed 1 sandwich with breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and 1 bottle of water.
What year is this again?
Late 1970s.
Damn. Back when they didn't realize that solitary like that could fucking lead to schizophrenia.
Yeah.
So, I watched a BBC documentary on YouTube, and one of the prison guards said that after the inmates would leave the basement of cell block 3, that the inmate would come out behaving like a quote-unquote good boy, which is because you broke their spirits.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and not...
Probably made them a little bit crazy.
That you turned them into reek.
Yeah.
You wouldn't get that. You wouldn't get that, Justine.
And not only that, it's like that inmate doesn't want to be put back in there again. So, of course, they're going to be a good boy because... Why would you? I don't know. Like, I wouldn't want to go back in there. There's no way in hell I would ever want to be in solitary.
They were talking to another inmate that had been in those cells in that documentary, and he was saying that he walked into the cell, right? Like, it was Lifetime at the time, which was probably in the 90s. But he walked into the cell, and he, like, instantly started crying, and he's like, I can still hear the scratching. And he was like, and the scratching was me. Like, just scratching on the walls just to do something, or to hear some sort of sound, which is like, I know he was in prison, but it's still like, that's a human being.
It's cruel and unusual punishment.
Yeah.
When I saw him cry, I literally wanted to cry.
I know this whole, and I've been crying for 48 hours, so I've been crying all day.
Hold on, did you want to cry or did you literally want to cry? Which is it?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh no,
Brittany said she literally wanted to cry, but I'm wondering what the difference is between that and just wanting to cry.
You know what, Scott? I just say shit, so leave me alone. Same shit. I wanted to cry. I literally wanted to cry.
I literally wanted to cry.
Shut up.
She's about to stab you.
Yeah.
You're about to go into that cell block with no windows and no doors.
Y'all wanted me back on.
Oh, no, we did it. So the listeners did.
So this brings us to the guards of the penitentiary in New Mexico. Ex-corrections officer Larry Mendoza, who had no sort of experience with this line of work, he said that he applied for the job because, of course he had a family, he needed to support them, and plus the benefits were great. But he didn't really have, like, any desire to work in a prison. So, he went in, applied for it, didn't have an interview, was hired immediately. And he showed up for his first day. They handed him a uniform, a whistle, and a radio. Then gave him a tour of the prison. And
I imagine he walked in the door and they're like, oh, thank God, help us.
And there he was, like, starting a job where he had to manage, him and his coworkers had to manage over 1,100 prisoners. And
with a whistle and a radio.
Yeah, a whistle and a radio. That
was their protection.
And a baton, maybe. But
no, they got no batons.
No batons?
No batons. Whistle and a radio. That was it.
Dang, they only got Nerf bats.
I thought they had batons.
No batons.
No batons. Nothing.
I'm sorry.
And no training. No formal training.
Yeah, this is where it's like fuck up number 1, right? You send these people in. There's no interview to see if they have any, prior training to, whatever.
To subdue somebody, anything.
Yeah, they don't give them training. You're literally handing, like, meat to the wolves. You know what I mean? Like, it's just insane to me.
They don't give the guards batons. They give the prisoners batons. Just to,
It's
to up the ante a little bit.
It's crazy. And how scary is that to be a guard and you
it's terrifying.
Have no protection, like no weapon on you whatsoever. You literally have a whistle and a radio and you're sent to the, like I said, to the wolves.
And like along with that, like with no training, no interviews, no nothing, like you do allow unstable people to come in as guards.
Yeah.
Which also becomes an issue. But come on, like you're overcrowded and you're not even going to have proper staff?
Yeah.
Ugh. That's the 80s for you guys. Now we're bringing up Larry's name because one, he's been on about 72 documentaries about this whole thing. And I've seen him age. Like, he did this one for BBC back in the 90s. He just did another one for IDTV. He's a very old man now. And
how old was he at the time? Like 30s? 40s?
Probably in his 30s, yeah. Okay. To me, he seems extremely honest. Mm-hmm. Like, he's the good, the bad, and the ugly. He's telling it all, you know? He also looks like he could be related to us, maybe. So, I like him a little bit because of that, too. And he lived through this extremely traumatic experience. He's willing to talk about it. So, I feel like it's important that we share a part of his story here, too, you know?
Yeah.
And I overall think that he's a good person. Like, we'll talk about it at the end, but he's suffered a lot because of what happens. Mm-hmm. If you guys don't know yet.
Yeah. Now, the inmates, they say, you know, the guards were extremely violent with them. They would beat and brutalize them, which Larry confirmed that, yeah, that did happen.
Yeah. He also cried about it.
Yeah, he did cry about it.
He said that he saw an inmate getting beat on by several guards, and they were like, "Come on, Larry, come on in, get your kicks in." And he was like, "No."
Yeah.
Like, what is this?
Like he was one of the good ones.
Dude, yeah, you could see the writing on the wall. I don't know anything about this case, and I can already see like this is not going to end well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They were also saying that they interviewed a couple of ex-prisoners that when they would take them down to cell block 3, they had to walk down like this flight of stairs, and every time at the top of the stairs, the officer would kick the inmate down the stairs, and they would rough him up a little bit before they went into cell block 3.
Yeah.
Which,
Jesus.
Again,
unnecessary.
I know the prisoners, but you can't behave that way.
You can't treat them like that.
No.
Not at all. So, of course, this gave all the inmates a common enemy to, you know, unite over. You know what I mean? Like, get that camaraderie going between all of them.
Yeah. Yeah, and those guards were extremely outnumbered.
Yeah. And the guards were like, we ain't gonna have that. Like, we're not gonna have you guys, you know, come against us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, before we get into the actual, like, shitstorm that we all know is brewing, we want to share just 2 more angles of the story because they're super important. And we want to introduce you guys to what is called the snitch jacket. What is the snitch jacket, Justine?
It's Justine's favorite jacket.
Heck yeah. So, because those corrections officers were not trained properly, they relied heavily on inmate handling. Mm-hmm. Like, they needed to learn the ins and outs. They needed the inmates to snitch on each other. They also were trying to deflect the hate from themselves. So they would pretty much force the inmates that didn't belong in some specific group or gang to be snitches, and then threaten them if they didn't snitch. They would make them wear the snitch jacket so that all the prisoners
thought they snitched anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So,
well, in that case, the snitch jacket becomes the I didn't snitch jacket. If you think about it.
I don't know, but can you, but these are like people that are not affiliated with anybody else, right? Like they're just lone wolves in there, and
I'd be like, hey, bro, I didn't say shit. He made me wear this because I didn't snitch.
Yeah, but at that point, you can't really trust
them.
They
don't know.
Once they have a snitch jacket on, you can't, and they say that they didn't snitch, you're not going to believe them as another inmate.
So we all know the good old saying. What is it?
Snitches get stitches. It's true.
Which is, it's just exactly what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so all these men, you know, it was out there that had snitched. Some of them had. Let's not.
Oh yeah.
Lie. Like some of them had snitched on things that were happening in the prison, but your life expectancy went way, way down.
Oh yeah. If you were a snitch.
If you were a snitch.
Yep. I think that's common sense though, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Ugh, how scary. This whole thing just, I think that's why this story, oh, whatever, we'll talk about it at the end, but this whole thing just scares the shit out of me.
Yeah. It's really scary.
Yeah.
Okay, so, you know, all these so-called snitches or whatever, they were held in cell block 4 along with other high-risk inmates, aka, you know, the rapists, the pedophiles. Also, I believe there were a couple people that also had mental illnesses that were in there as well.
Mental disabilities. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and this whole thing made the inmates hate the other inmates, you know, instead of the guards. Yeah. So the guards' plan for the snitch jacket worked. Yeah. You know?
I'm not saying I back the idea. I'm just saying if you want to get heat off you, that was a pretty solid idea.
It was smart, right? That's how they kept control of everybody. But the problem is that you put a bunch of inmates that now don't trust each other all in one prison. Like, yeah, there's some shit that's about to blow up.
Well,
you know?
And also the guards are treating the inmates like shit.
Yeah.
So all that is just like, it leads to like a perfect storm.
Yep. So, secondly, we want to tell you about cell block 5. Because now we've covered cell block 3, 4. Now we got to cover 5. Mm-hmm. So that was another group of dangerous inmates. They were being held in cell block 5. But in late 1979, the prison decided that cell block 5 needed to be renovated, like very heavily. And so they moved all those scary inmates, put them in dormitory E2 with regular inmates.
What the fuck, dude?
So they went from cells to living open and free.
Can you imagine, like, you're just a dude that, like, you got busted for robbery, you made some mistakes in your life, and all of a sudden they open the doors to your cell block, and in walks a bunch of these dudes frothing at the mouth, wearing fucking straight jackets, one eye crazed out, whacked out, bigger than the other eye. And you're like, what the fuck did I deserve to be put in the same block with this dude?
So you put a bunch of dangerous, violent prisoners into a big, giant room with a bunch of probably weaker-minded, petty criminals. They're doing, robberies. Yeah. They probably got busted on drug shit, whatever. Mm-hmm. They're going to do what they're told by those scary inmates because prison's dog-eat-dog, you know? And, like, the big dog walks in and you just fall in line. Mm-hmm. It's so scary.
So everything that we just told you guys about, this all brings us to the shit show that happens.
Welcome to the shit show.
Yeah, that happens on February 2nd, 1980 at 1:40 in the morning when the penitentiary, you know, that was built to hold only 980 inmates, but was currently holding 1,156 criminals, and was being guarded by, I think it was 12 to 15 correction officers. Some reports say it was 12, and then some reports say it was 15.
For all of those prisoners?
Yes. Yeah. And all right. to top it all off, like we said earlier, they didn't have any guns.
No, nope, remember they got whistles.
They only had whistles and a radio. Remember that. So this penitentiary was taken over, and the most violent prison riot to date then ensued. So this is your warning. It's about to get real violent and graphic up in this bitch. We're all giving you a warning.
Warning.
Warning. Warning. Warning. Warning.
So former inmate Gary Nelson, who had been arrested on armed robbery charges, had been assigned to live in E2 just 2 weeks prior to February 2nd. He says that night everyone was sitting around playing cards and getting drunk on prison brewed beer.
Dope.
Which is very gross. What is in prison brewed beer?
Toilet water.
I know, but it's better than no beer at all when you're in prison, I bet. It's probably doo-doo water taken from the toilets.
I just said toilet water.
Yeah.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear you, my bad.
So they're all sitting around playing games when one of the inmates suddenly stood up and said,
Food
when
fight!
when the guards do the 1 a.m. count, if they don't lock the door, we're going to jump them and take over this place. And anyone who stays in their bed is going to get hurt.
So basically what had happened was, so there was, so imagine this, you're a guard, right? Mm-hmm. It's dark because, lights are out at a certain time. Prisoners are asleep. Mm-hmm. And in the dormitory, like we said, there are prisoners sleeping on the floor. Mm-hmm. So when the guards do their walkthroughs, it's dark. They don't want to turn on the lights and wake everyone up. And they have to use their flashlights. So they got to hope that the batteries in their flashlights are working. Like they got to basically hope that their flashlights are fucking bright enough to see everybody. Mm-hmm. So they don't step on anybody.
It sounds like some horror movie shit.
Yeah. And they're supposed to be counting, right? They're supposed to be counting inmates. And that's why, like, the numbers are kind of all over the place for this story, is because a lot of times the guards just wouldn't count. They would go, okay, just write down the number that they had counted in the afternoon. And they were like, hope that no one had escaped.
Yeah, they wouldn't even walk through.
No.
Most of the time.
The whole plan, the protocol was there were supposed to be 3 guards that would go through each cell block. And one would stay at the door, lock it, behind 2 guards that would go in, walk wall to wall, count the inmates, come back, then let them out. But because there were so few of them and they didn't have any weapons, 99% of the time they didn't lock the doors when they were doing it, which the inmates knew.
Of course they did. These are people that had to stake out a bank to rob it. You think they can stake out one door?
Yeah, so they just wanted to get in and out. And then they just wouldn't lock the doors.
And on this night, the door wasn't locked.
Nope. So the 4 officers who were guarding E2 were immediately taken hostage because, again, doors weren't locked. And the inmates flooded the corridors trying to make it to the control room. Officer Larry Mendoza and Officer Antonio Vigil were eating breakfast in the officer's kitchen when they started hearing clanking and banging in the hallway, which I imagine that's like a horror movie. Like,
it definitely
sitting there drinking your coffee, enjoying your cereal, whatever you're eating, and then you just start hearing like this rumbling coming down the hallway.
Yeah, I'm sure he heard like yelling too.
And they're like, what the fuck is happening?
Dude, I wouldn't even walk outside. I wouldn't have even walked outside.
I'd have finished my coffee.
I would have just stayed in there.
So when Larry looked out into the hallway, he said he saw hundreds of inmates running in their direction, and they had one of the corrections officers that had been in E2 down on the ground, and he said that they were kicking him and that he was rolling down the corridor as they kicked him. Mm-hmm. And he knew that if they didn't run to the control center and warn them that the prisoners were out, that they were going to get out of the south side of the prison and then potentially let out the real dangerous prisoners on the north side cell blocks. 3. Cell block 3.
So the 2 officers, Larry and Antonio, they ran to the control center and they warned the guard there and they took refuge there. And they were safe because 2 weeks prior to this riot, the control room had been upgraded with bulletproof glass. Wrong. No.
I was like, huh.
Nope.
Wow, okay.
No.
Well, it had been upgraded with bulletproof. Well, they say it had been.
They say it was bulletproof glass, but I mean,
it wasn't prisoner proof.
It wasn't. It wasn't fire extinguisher proof because an inmate took a fire extinguisher and smashed it through the glass. And then they took Larry, Antonio, and the 2 other guards that were in the control room. They took them all hostage, and by 2:05, really?
Wow.
2:05 a.m., the inmates had complete and total control of the prison. Now, they couldn't figure out how to open all of the doors to all the cell blocks, via the control room. So they had to manually release everyone else, which they did.
Ugh.
There we go.
Can you imagine being a guard? Oh my God. I would just die. I would just curl up in a little ball on the floor and die.
I was just thinking, in Larry Mendoza's case, this is why you are nice to, or at least you treat prisoners with a little bit of dignity, not necessarily respect, but a little bit of dignity when you're their guard. Because just in case some shit like this happens, you can't necessarily let rest on your laurels, but you can at least, you don't have to worry as much about the other guy who was just beating the shit out of them with a bunch of his homies the other day. You'd be like, hey, at least I'm better off than that asshole.
Yeah, which he was in the long run. So the prison pretty much divided into two groups. It was the Chicanos and then the Aryan Brotherhood. But they say it wasn't actual. Well, they called them the Aryan Brotherhood. There's no confirmation that they actually were.
Yeah.
The white supremacists.
Yes. So they were the two major gangs wreaking havoc inside the prison once it was taken over. And where was the first place they headed?
Cell block 4.
Where all the snitches and predators were housed. But to get there, they had to go through the psychology wing. So a lot of them just stopped on their way and were like, all right, guys, onward you go. But we're going to stop and we're going to get high first. Priorities.
And then start a fire.
Yes. They broke into the drugs, did a little drugs. And they were like, we'll catch up with you later. Go have fun.
Imagine if you're a drug addict in prison for like years and years and years, and then all of a sudden the opportunity presented itself to do some drugs. Like, oh, hell yeah. About to get lit.
I'll see y'all later.
They also had to run through cell block 5, that was under construction. And the construction workers, they left all their tools and shit behind. So the inmates picked up those tools, like the pipes, axes, and blowtorches.
Yeah.
And when they arrived at cell block 4, they couldn't get the grill door open. So what they did is they started using the blowtorches to open it up so they could get in. And that took about 5 long hours.
Yeah. And for anyone that doesn't know, the grill doors are the doors that lock to the whole unit.
Yeah.
It's the big sliding. They look like grills.
Yeah. That's 5 hours. Do you think they handed them off? Or was it just...
Oh, yeah. They were definitely taking turns.
Yeah.
They were like, okay, I'm going to go snort more pills. Your turn.
Dude, I could barely screw in a few screws before my hands get tired.
Jeez, 5 hours. So by this point, state police had lined up outside, and the inmates were communicating with them and telling them that they were going to hurt all of the inmates in cell block 4. And one official was overheard saying, "It's their ass." So clearly, the officers didn't give a shit at all.
Nah.
What happened to the inmates in cell block 4?
Yep.
I mean, there's only 12 to 15 of them. What are they going to do? Even if they did give a shit.
No. The officers outside. The ones that had responded to
okay.
the hostage situation.
Yeah.
Which I think it was the state police, Santa Fe police, the National Guard was there.
Oh, they're already there at this point?
They're already there.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But
Well,
they're like
5 hours later.
Yeah. So the men in segregation, they screamed and begged for help from the officers outside of the prison, but the officers didn't do anything. Instead, they made a deal with the rioters. The deal was that they were not going to enter the prison as long as the correction officers being held were kept alive. There was a back door to cell block 4, right, Justine?
Yes.
Yeah. So there was a back door to get in. And that back door, obviously, since it led to cell block 4, the inmates in cell block 4 could have gotten out. But the officers said that they didn't have the keys.
Yeah. So the officers, not that the cellmates could have got out because they were still locked in their cells, but the officers could have came in and rescued them. Like, they could have entered the prison from that door.
Back door, yeah.
And they had 5 hours to enter the prison through that door to come in and
they didn't
get some sort of, sanity restored.
Yeah.
And they just let them sit there
Yeah.
and cry and beg.
So in that BBC documentary that we watched, Justine, an inmate at the time named Michael Colby, he had this to say when asked about the guards not saving the inmates in cell block 4.
Who gives a fuck about them? I mean, the way they were treating them, they were in a 6x9, 2 or 3 of them living in there like that. They didn't care about them. Once they got the usefulness of them testifying or giving up the information they gave up, they're as useless to them as they are to us. Matter of fact, they're a burden to them because they have to take care of them. So, no, they don't give a fuck about that at all.
So that goes to show you
They didn't give a shit.
they didn't give a shit. Exactly.
No. And I think that the nobody had the key was just an excuse to say, like, oh, well, we couldn't get in to do anything anyways.
To, like, save
The
face.
door was locked.
Yeah.
Just shows you like the mentality of even people on the outside is once you go to prison, you're basically as good as dead. Like, we don't give a fuck about you. The guard's life are more important. Not that I say that the guard's life shouldn't be important. Obviously, it should, but they didn't even take into account the prisoners at all. They said, "No, fuck them."
Well, they didn't care about the prisoners in cell block 4 specifically because they were snitches.
That's just weird that the ones that helped them out, they would give the least of a fuck about.
Well, like the clip I just said, the clip I just played, Michael Colby said that, the snitches in cell block 4 were like a burden to the police officers because the police officers had to take care of them and protect them.
Yeah.
So now that they're gone, they didn't need to do that anymore.
Yeah. And I think, like, that mentality, too. And I don't want to say this is, like, all the guards on staff.
No.
I think that some of them did care. It's like the higher-ups. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's just a name in their book.
Yeah.
And they didn't care. They didn't know them. They didn't... I mean, the rapists and the pedophiles were also in that unit, but there was also, just regular old people that had talked. That had also been pressured into talking. I don't know. Crazy. So as the sun came up, the execution squad, which they were named. I think they named themselves. I think it was a group that named themselves.
Yeah.
They were finally able to cut through the grill and entered cell block 4. And one by one, they opened each cell and then pulled the inmates out and tortured them. They dismembered them. They hung them. Some of them were burned alive.
Yeah, there was one inmate that was held up in front of a window while other inmates used the blow torches on his face and eyes until his head exploded from the heat.
Jesus.
Imagine seeing that. Oh, I can't imagine seeing that. That's so brutal.
Also, what the fuck is wrong with you? I mean, I guess they're prisoners. That you're like, this is a good idea. Let's melt his head off.
Yeah.
Ugh.
That's fucking gnarly, dude.
Another inmate by the name of Mario Urosti, who had been arrested for shoplifting and had been gang raped by 7 other inmates a few weeks prior to this riot, had pressed charges against them and was being housed in cell block 4, again for his own protection. The inmates broke in, they hung him, they cut his throat, they then removed his genitals from his body and stuffed them into his mouth. And this kid's in there for shoplifting.
Yeah.
What?
Shoplifting. Are you kidding me? That's ridiculous. And there was there was a correction officer who put Mario in cell block 4. Larry Flood,
Larry
right?
Flood.
Yeah, Larry Flood.
Different Larry.
Yeah, different Larry. He had to go when he was walking through, and he said that he immediately identified Mario. And imagine that. Like, he put him in there to be safe.
Yeah.
And it was his death sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he, like, tears up, too.
Yeah, he did.
Like, I thought I was saving this kid, and you know,
They did it.
this is like a horrific end,
Yeah.
you know?
Other men were beaten to death with pipes. Others were stabbed to death with shanks. There were multiple fires set in the gymnasium, the psychology wing, the Protestant chapel, and even the library. I thought the library was not touched. I thought there was just smoke going into the library.
I don't know. I read that they lit the library on fire too. But I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, there was even another inmate whose head was penetrated with a melting iron bar.
Yeah.
Like
they just went like rabid animals.
Yeah.
Like what?
Just some brutal shit happened.
Yeah.
All throughout this riot.
So Larry and some of the other guards were moved to cell block 6.
Not Larry Flood, Larry Mendoza.
Larry Mendoza.
Yeah.
Larry Flood was not in the building at the time.
Yeah.
He had I can't remember what it's called, kidnapped or something on IDTV, and it is his whole I think it's I don't know, we'll find it. I'll tell Brittany to put it in the show notes, but they interview him about his whole experience. Like, it's just his experience from beginning to end. And there was an inmate, and I don't believe that they name him, but he basically was protecting Larry and the 3 other guards. And some of the other nastier inmates were coming in and threatening to rape them and kill them. And one of the main leaders of this whole thing, of the whole riot, was like saying that he wanted them murdered out in front of the prison to like show the police outside like they meant business or whatever. And again, like Scott said earlier, I think because Larry wasn't a piece of shit, these inmates were like, okay, and maybe the other guys with him weren't either, you know what I mean? And they're like, all right, he's always been kind to us. I don't know, I feel like prison is like a lot of respect, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You respected us, we're gonna show respect to you now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like that, hey, Larry and Gary were cool, but Jerry was a fucking prick. We don't care about Jerry.
So, while they were put in cell block, when they were moved to cell block 6, they were all shown the head of another inmate by the name of Paulina Paul, who had been decapitated. And they said that when they saw him, Larry said that when they saw him, they were like, "What? Like, is that something from the kitchen? Like, what is that?" Like, his face was so mangled and destroyed. It looked like a piece of meat. And they were like, "No, it's his head." So Paulina was another inmate in cell block 4 that was being housed there because he had the mental age of a 12-year-old. And they had removed Paulina's head with a shovel.
Jesus.
And again, Paulina didn't snitch on anyone.
No.
Paulina was just there because he was mentally handicapped.
Yeah.
Like,
Sometimes I always thought that there was like a, I mean, there probably is amongst certain prisoners, but I always thought there's like a code of honor, like honor amongst thieves, kind of like,
yeah.
like you kind of like, you know how prison justice happens when like the pedophile rapist comes into jail and he ends up getting raped by a bunch of prisoners, stuff like
Yeah.
that. I always thought there's like this code of honor amongst them, like don't fuck with certain types of people, don't fuck with the elderly, or don't fuck with the whatever, you know what I mean? But it turns out that's not the case, or maybe it's just not the case in a riot. I guess a riot might just be a different story.
Yeah, I think when they opened up cell block 4, they were just gonna murder all of them, no matter if they were snitches or not. And while this actual hell was on Earth was going on, negotiations had been taking place with officials. The inmates, they were all demanding different things. At first, they wanted pool tables in each cell block or something like that, and they wanted steaks.
Okay, Pablo Escobar,
Yeah,
chill out.
calm down.
Yeah, so stupid.
Yeah, and yeah, they just requested a bunch of dumb shit, and
I like how they didn't request to be released. They just requested cooler shit while they were still in prison.
yeah,
Yeah. None of them were like, "Give me $1 million and put me on a plane."
Yeah.
No.
They were just like, we want pool tables and steaks.
Put $15 in my commissary.
Just $15. That's good. So while some of them, demanded for pool tables and steaks, whatever, Some of them just wanted to be transferred to a different prison altogether. There's like,
Yeah.
take me out of this motherfucker. I want to go somewhere else.
Hell yeah. That would be mine.
Mm-hmm.
So several of the guards were released to be treated for injuries. I think they said one of them came out with a big old gash in his head. Like
Yeah.
these guards went through the ringer.
Yeah. Some of them came out, like one of them came out naked and just badly beaten.
They were brutalized.
Yeah.
Naked and afraid.
Ruined for life.
Yeah.
So after 36 hours, by 1:30 p.m. on Sunday, February 3rd, all of the correctional officers were released and the inmates filed out of the prison. They said that they got tired, they got cold, and they were hungry. So they were ready to surrender.
Oh my God.
Then the police, then the state police officers, along with the Santa Fe Police Department, entered the prison. And I think a couple of the prison guards also entered back in too. Not the ones that were on staff that night, but other staff.
Now, unfortunately, the negotiations, they weren't recorded, so we don't know exactly what the conclusion was.
Yeah.
But what we do know is that several of the prisoner, quote unquote, leaders were moved to other prisons after control was taken back. I know one of the leaders, I think, was Michael Colby, the one who I mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm. And I believe he was transferred to a different prison as well.
Yeah. So, correction officer Larry Flood, again, this is different than Larry Mendoza, said that on Sunday, when they were finally able to re-enter the prison, it was filled with smoke and water. It started flooding for some reason. I don't know what they were doing in there. And that it reeked of death. There was just blood and fluid everywhere.
Smelled like rotting meat.
Probably.
That's disgusting.
And while he had been able to identify Mario immediately when he saw him, like there were so many other of the inmates that he could not tell who was who because they had been beaten beyond recognition and he just couldn't tell.
Yeah. So all in all, 33 inmates died. 24 of them were Hispanic. 7 were white. There was 1 Native American. And Paulina Paul was the only African American that was murdered. In addition, more than 200 inmates were injured, and very quickly, because you know how we do around these parts, here are all the names of the deceased inmates.
Michael Briones, Lawrence C. Cardone, Nick Coca, Richard G. Fierro, James C. Foley, Donald J. Gozens, Philip C. Hernandez, Valentino E. Jaramillo, Kelly E. Johnson, Stephen Lucero, Joe A. Madrid, Ramon Madrid, Archie M. Martinez, Joseph A. Mirabal, Ben G. Moreno, Gilbert O. Moreno, Thomas O'Meara, Filiberto M. Ortega. Hey, he's from Las Vegas. Oh, Las Vegas, New Mexico. Frank J. Ortega, Paulina Paul, rest in peace. James Perrin, Robert F. Quintela, Robert L. Rivera, Vincent E. Romero, Herman D. Russell, Juan M. Sanchez, Frankie J. Cedillo, Larry W. Smith, Leo J. Tenorio, Thomas C. Tenorio, Mario Urioste, Danny D. Waller, and finally Russell M. Warner. Quite a few.
Yeah.
Quite a few.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So, very few inmates were prosecuted for the murders, and basically everyone went unpunished. I read that only 1 inmate received like 9 years tacked on to their original sentence.
Yeah.
He must have done some especially heinous shit.
Yeah, well, it was impossible to tell who had done what.
Right.
And then absolutely no one was talking, especially after the things that had been done to the snitches.
Yeah, so nobody
I
was
wouldn't be talking either.
No, I wouldn't have said shit.
No. Not even the guards, but guards, I didn't see nothing.
Nope.
Just another day on the job.
No. None of the guards were killed, but they were all placed on disability and they lost their jobs.
Wow.
Yeah, and none of them were allowed to work in corrections again.
Realistically, would they want to?
Probably not, no. They were also not offered any sort of therapy to help them deal with this horrific experience that they went through. So
back
again,
in the early 80s, people didn't take mental illness or anything of the sort seriously.
Yeah.
No.
So, they were failed again by the prison.
Yeah. No training, no weapons, no plan of action if this were to happen.
No.
And then after all these horrific things happen to them, and there's not many articles or anything dedicated to what was done specifically to the guards, just that they survived, but there is a lot of hint that the majority of them were raped.
Yeah. They were tortured, raped.
Jeez, they weren't taken care of at all. Just on the way out, the warden said also, and he kicked them all in the nuts on their way out. He just said, fuck you especially.
I read a lot of articles where after this, traumatizing experience, a lot of the officers, they took up drinking, of course.
Naturally.
Yep.
To deal with it.
And I was telling Brittany earlier too, like, I don't know for sure. I read an article about one guard, a female guard. She was one of the only female guards, if not only the only female guard. She was scheduled to work the graveyard shift that night. Mm-hmm. And she had gone out to dinner beforehand and got too drunk and didn't show up for work.
Thank fuck, huh?
Dude.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I guess she still has the pictures of because she went in the prison the next day with the police, and she has pictures of the victims and what they found. And she hinted at the fact that a lot of the guards that were there that night are not even alive anymore. And I don't know if that means suicide or just old age, or, I don't know what that means. But I can't imagine coming out of that and receiving no therapy that you walked away fine. Larry said that he was divorced within a year, that his wife moved to a completely different state.
He would wake up screaming.
And his whole world fell apart.
Yeah.
Dude, that's fucking gnarly, man.
That section of the prison has since been shut down. Obviously, there was no coming back from what happened in there, But as of 2013, you can take a tour of the old cell blocks.
Oh, great.
For the very expensive price of $15 a head. But no children under 16 allowed. Which is pretty gross to put a price tag on. I don't know. It seems gross to have people go in there and look around where so many people were murdered, but also we'd probably do it if we were in New Mexico in the area.
It's hard to say, because there's
Just
haunted houses of where families were murdered and shit, and everybody's complicit in that, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything loses its tragic luster after it's been long enough, what I mean?
I would definitely be interested to go in and just see it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Same reason you would
Also,
want to go to
scared,
someplace like
though.
Alcatraz, you know what I mean?
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah. I feel like that prison is for sure haunted.
Oh, 100% haunted. I feel like most prisons are haunted.
I know, right?
If I would want to go there, I would want to go there for that reason.
Just to see if it's haunted?
Just to see, because I don't believe in any of that, but if there was a place that something was going to happen at, that sounds
That'd
like the
be
place.
the place.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so crazy because I hadn't heard this story until I saw Larry Mendoza's episode on that kidnap show. God damn it. Let me find out what it's called. Because I was watching it earlier. And I was like, this is pretty horrific. And how had I not ever heard this story before?
I don't think I have heard the story before you mentioned it to me. Or, before we put it on the calendar. I was like, what the hell? I'm surprised I haven't heard about this.
I don't know if it's specifically this one that I've heard of. I've heard about a prison riot, but this one is especially gnarly. I don't know if it was this one. That I must have seen a documentary on it or something like that. But there's one where they burnt down part of the ward. It must not have been this one. I would remember this. If they fucking melted a dude's head until it exploded, I think that would have stuck.
They went rampant. And one of the inmates that was there, he was, it was that old Mexican guy, Justine, with the black.
Oh my God. I was like, that's the devil reincarnate. Dude. What is happening right now?
He he was asked by the interviewer, he's like, the interviewer was like, do you feel bad for, you know, taking part in the riot, you know? Because he said that he murdered people in cell block 4.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I don't feel bad about it.
Not at all.
And I was like, what? But the thing is that you saw his face getting red. And I was like, I don't know if it's that attitude that he has where like, no, I don't feel bad about it. But then inside he really does. So I don't know. Like his facial expression didn't really.
Well, they said he was dying, right?
What's that?
Didn't they say he was dying?
I don't know. I
thought they said that he had like a really bad case of hepatitis and he was dying from it. And so he was like, yeah, whatever, I'll admit it. I did it. I killed people in cell block 4.
Oh, yeah. It was hepatitis B. You're right.
Could he even be charged at this point? Like, considering they didn't decide to charge him at the time, would that fall under the double jeopardy or no? No, because he wasn't tried it.
I feel like when they interviewed him, he was still in jail.
Yeah, he was still in jail. He was still in prison.
Yeah.
But I don't think, like, how are they going to get DNA? They would not have anything to prove it. You know what I mean? Even if he said, like, yeah, I did it. I don't mean shit.
Yeah.
You know? But 100% he did it. Also, that guy that you played the clip from, what was his name?
Michael Colby.
Yeah. They kind of like were like, did you have something? He was like, I was in cell block 4.
Yeah, he didn't
But would it say?
He didn't say that he participated in, like, killings or whatever, but he was like, I was in cell block 4.
Yeah,
that's all he would say about it.
I'm like, that's such a prison answer. Yeah, I've been there. But not admitting any faults. And a lot of the inmates that they interviewed were like, really, they're free now. Well, they were at the time of this film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if they are anymore. You know, it's not really a great turnaround at that.
One of them, like, turned out to be, like, a criminal justice lawyer and shit.
That's weird.
Yeah.
After the shit he saw, I was like, I'm never going back.
Yeah. Fuck that.
Dude. This story is very, very crazy.
Yeah. It's so weird. It's just like, me and Brittany were talking earlier. I'm like, why is this not a fucking movie? Because I would watch this shit.
Yeah, this is some Con Air 2, the New Mexico prison riots.
It's crazy. And the fact that it's a true story, you know, like you hear this stuff and you're like, oh, that's if you saw this as a movie, you'd be like, that's just made up. That's fabricated.
Yeah.
But like this shit actually happens.
It's like medieval level torture going on in there.
Yeah. And it wasn't like it was that long ago. It was in 1980. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I half expected you to tell me that, and they had a steel bull and they put a man inside and then they lit a fire underneath it.
If they could have made one.
Yeah. It's crazy how there were events that took place that led to this, like I said earlier, a perfect storm.
Yeah.
One minor slip up, like not like it locking the door, led to all of this.
Yeah, like you know, doing the snitch jacket and the
severe overcrowding. Like it was the perfect storm.
Yeah,
like,
they weren't like the inmates weren't getting proper food. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There were rat feces everywhere and cockroaches, and it was just yeah. The environment in there was just horrible. The living conditions.
I guess when I say one minor problem, like not locking the door, that's not a very minor problem. It's kind of a major problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, like, why aren't your guards equipped with weapons? Like, I understand the fear of, like, an inmate getting a gun off of you, right? But still, you need to be able to protect yourself.
Yeah. And if you're a prison guard,
where's
you're
the
in
pepper
there.
spray, dude?
You're in there with the worst.
Something.
You're in there with one of the some of the worst criminals, and they're not gonna give you a gun. Like, I wouldn't take that fucking job. No, I'd be like, no, you give me a fucking gun, and you train me, and then and they didn't even train these officers at all.
No.
So
and that was other problem that they were just taking people off the street. Like, whoever was like, oh, I'll apply for that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, not a good plan.
Yeah, it was just
It was just
a bunch of shit. Literally, like, just
crazy.
A bunch of bullshit that happened that led to this.
Yeah, and like Larry Mendoza was like, you know, I was scared. He was scared shitless his first, you know, few months there, and then he got into the groove of things, and he said that he loved his job. Like, he loved showing up every day, and I think you kind of, even if you don't want to, like, you sort of form some sort of bond with the inmates, right? Like, you're seeing them every day. You're spending hours and hours with them, like, and then it was like all good until it was a fucking disaster.
Yeah. That's why if you're an officer, maybe you should treat the inmates with a little bit more respect.
Yeah.
Just in case a riot does happen.
Day, no matter what you do, like, you're still a human being.
Yeah.
And they already face so much danger within themselves, right? Inmate on inmate shit. Like, don't involve yourself in it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's gnarly. That's the definition of gnarly.
Crazy. Okay, so are we done with discussion?
Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the shit out of it.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
I came back in right at the right time.
I knew you'd like this one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
All right, so now we're jumping into what, Justine?
Stranger danger.
Stranger dangers.
Stranger danger. Stranger danger. This is not a test. I repeat, this is not a test. You better run!
Okay. Justine, I see that you still haven't answered any of your things. Very good, very good.
Sorry, guys. Listen.
Listen, Justine. No, listen. There's no more excuses.
Did I say in the recording of last week's episode that I would have responded to the stranger dangers before the episode went up? Yes, I did. Did I do it? No, I did not.
No.
Okay.
There you
But when
go.
I heard myself say it as I was listening to the episode, I went, "Oh shit!" and then I went and responded. Okay.
But now you
So-
still have more that you haven't responded to.
Okay. Well, you know what? I'm very busy.
Watching Good Doctor? Shut up.
Yeah, and crying. Okay, I've been feeling very emotional the last few days, and I've just been crying.
Okay. All right. So
All
since
right.
this story was a pretty long one, we're going to give you guys two stories, correct,
Yes.
Justine?
Correct.
So,
You ready?
yeah.
I'm first.
Go
I'm
for it.
Heather. Okay.
Oh,
I'm
you're
not
Heather. You're Heather?
I'm not actually physically Heather. I'm just reading Heather's story.
Okay.
So, the subject to Heather's story is creepy teen. This is a brand new experience for me too, guys. I haven't
Creepy
read this yet.
Teen or team?
Yes, teen.
Okay.
Teen. Okay. So, when I was about 13 or 14, I spent the summer visiting my aunt. She was dating this guy who thought he was George Michael. It was the 80s. Hey, this is very in theme.
Tight.
And he had these two creepy ass brothers. The one that liked to kick my ass at cards, and the other just weirded me out. Well, at the end of summer, the creeper came over and just sat on the couch staring into space. And mind you, it was summer and the house was full of kids. I was the oldest by many years, and later that day, the police arrived and took him away. Come to find out, him and his buddy had got a little old couple to let them, quote unquote, use their phone and then beat them to death.
Whoa.
Whoa, that took a turn.
What?
After that, I went home and didn't come back for a long time. He's still in prison, and just looking at his picture makes my stomach hurt. I sat next to a cold-blooded killer. Dang, after he had done it.
That's crazy.
Weird.
And
How
to see him contemplating his actions out there staring into space.
Ugh.
That's
How
gnarly.
creepy.
Dude.
I don't
What
like
the
it.
fuck?
Oh, man, it just goes to show you don't know anyone.
No way. That's
Well,
creepy.
She really didn't know him that well. She knew he was creepy.
Yeah.
Sometimes, creepy people are, killers.
Jeez.
Our friend Tom. I was trying to get you while you're drinking, but I forgot about the delay.
Sucker.
Well, thank you, Heather, for your story.
Yeah, that's really scary.
That was
Ooh, weird.
that took
was
a
good one.
turn.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next story we have is from Jessica.
Hey, Jessica.
Subject is y'all gave me guts.
Ooh.
This is a really, really
we
good.
did?
This is a really good story.
Okay.
Okay. So it says, okay, this happened moments ago, and instead of thanking you in my head, I'm sending it here. I'm waiting for an appointment to begin in 30-ish minutes, but there isn't a good parking spot in a well-lit area near the office, so I am parked in a well-lit parking lot in a nice part of town. My doors are locked, and I'm in an open space. I tried to check all the boxes to be as safe as possible. It still doesn't matter because people are still weird no matter how safe you try to keep yourself. A rough-looking man just walked out from behind a building. Again, nice part of town where this just doesn't happen. and he signaled to me to roll my window down. He came out of nowhere. He kept walking to my car, and I just kept shaking my head no. He then smashed his hand so hard his fingerprints are still in my window. He smushed a sticky note sized note on my window that said, "I'm deaf, blah, blah, blah." I didn't read the rest. I just shook my head no and pointed at him to leave. I felt frozen. I should have driven away, but that's not what came to mind. I know it sounds ableist, and I mean that I wouldn't help someone deaf after seeing a note that stated so, but my stomach was sinking, and if he really needed something, we were in a shopping center where he could get help from literally any store here. I just felt like it was a plea for something. Anyway, as his hand was on my window, I could almost audibly hear y'all shouting, "Nope, nuh-uh, absolutely not." I gave him a look that...
I almost said that.
Yeah. I gave him a look that said, "Don't fuck with me, dude," and he walked away, but not before hitting my window with an open palm so hard it made me duck.
Yeah, fuck that guy. He's a liar.
Yeah. He walked away towards another parking lot, throwing his hands in the air and laughing maniacally. Since listening to your show, I have found my backbone. I used to put myself in dangerous positions to help people, and I always gave everyone the benefit of the doubt. I still have a really hard time saying no to people if I'm able to help, but I've definitely found my boundary lines. Thank you for giving me a hell nah voice when I went to open the window. I teach young people, and I find myself giving them your advice in kid-friendly terms. Like, an adult doesn't need any advice or directions from you. They can ask another adult. And also look them in the eyes like you mean it and say no.
Yeah, true.
We also practice screaming for help in case they ever need to do it in real life so they won't feel frozen. But most importantly, you've informed me on how to take victim blaming out of the safety instructions, like telling kids it's never their burden to carry the actions of another person if their actions hurt them. Anyway, that was long and rambly, and it's time for my appointment. Take care and keep up the good work. Jessica.
I wanted to cry a little bit. Jessica, you know I'm very emotional right now.
Oh my God, Jessica. You're making Justine cry.
That is the nicest email we've ever gotten.
Right? Dude, I was like, I love this so much.
Wow. Hey, maybe we are doing some good.
I know.
Wonder what his motive was, like just to get her to roll down the window and then he unlocks the door or something like that.
Yeah, maybe trying to remember. That's also why are you carrying around a note that says "I'm deaf"?
Because that's how he gets them to. Oh.
And if you could write down "I'm deaf," why couldn't you write down what your question was?
Yeah.
Also, why would you have to roll down the window? Are you gonna hear her say something?
Yeah.
You're not gonna see her hand sign through the window.
Oh, Scott, that is the most brilliant thing you've ever said on this whole entire podcast. You're right.
Huh.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay. Yeah,
See?
he definitely had ulterior motives.
That guy was up to no good.
Yeah.
And then he was like laughing maniacally. It's like, like, no.
There was no good intentions there.
No way. No way. Yeah.
Get out of here.
Always trust your gut. Always
Hell
trust your gut. And say, hell no.
You made the right decision.
No.
Yeah.
When in doubt, make like John Malkovich from the movie Bird Box and don't allow anybody in, don't trust anybody, and fuck them all. Have you watched that yet, Justine? Bird Box?
Yeah.
I thought Scott was going to say, when in doubt, pinky out.
That too. Because that's how I drink and I can't help it.
Oh,
yeah, I love this. I love this email so much. So thanks, Jessica.
Thank you, Jessica.
I'm glad that we're your
awesome.
the voice in your head.
Yeah. Oh, how annoying for you. Also, way to go telling kids shit they need to hear.
Yeah.
Like, don't say it's shit they need to hear, but do it the way you're doing it.
Yeah.
Kid friendly.
That's what I wrote in my email too. Like, keep doing that. I think more adults need to teach children what to do in certain situations. That deal with stranger danger.
Hell yeah, because it's everywhere.
Dude.
Wow. Why did you have to roll down the window for him to hear you? That was very wise, Scott. My mind is blown. Wow. Huh. Very good. All right. Well, thank you for your story, Jessica. We already said thank you. I'm going to say thank you again.
Man, both of those are pretty good, man.
Hell yeah. Way to go, ladies. Way to go. All right. If you guys want to send in a stranger danger story, do it.
Do it like
my
Nike.
dad's Yeah. My dad's coming next weekend to record next week's episode with us. Or this weekend to record next week's episode with us. So send in some good ones that we can put on that episode.
Yeah. Where can they send the stranger dangers?
ItsAboutDamnCrime@gmail.com, or you can go to ItsAboutDamnCrime.com and fill out the form. He was telling me, he's like, this is a lot of pressure. I'm going to have to drink. And the last time I had this much pressure, I drank a lot of red wine, and then I don't remember the night. And I was like, okay, well,
Perfect.
You're going to have to drink beer, and you're going to have to relax. No red wine for you.
He's going to be out here?
Yeah, he's coming down here.
Oh, shit. Well, I'll just drink beer then.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do we have any more reviews? Any new reviews?
Oh, yeah, we do have new reviews. iTunes is like glitching out. I went on here earlier and it said that we had 337 reviews, and then I'm on it right now and it says we have 349. So,
You might.
no, we do. It's like glitching back and forth.
How weird.
So, someone go leave another 5-star review so that we can be at 350. Thank you so much. Do you remember when we only had 10? It's still weird to me when I see so many reviews. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Guys are doing it.
Keep them coming.
Hell yeah. Okay. First up, we have a 5-star review from I almost said Hot Hunter. No, Pot Hunter. Titled, Not Your Grandma's True Crime Podcast. I listen to way too many true crime podcasts, and I get so sick of hearing the same stories being told over and over and over again by people who are boring AF.
Dang.
Tell me.
IADC is great at combining interesting stories and entertaining storytelling by obvious BFFs. Yeah, we are.
We're the only people we hang out with.
The chemistry between Brittany, Justine, and Scott is so fun to listen to and makes the heartbreaking crime tales more easy to swallow. This podcast is not for people who are looking for those boring AF news radio format true crime podcasts, but if you're looking for interesting stories told by even more interesting people, this is the podcast for you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Pod Hunter. You are a hot Pod Hunter.
That was quite kind.
I stand firm with what I said.
Next, we have a 5-star review from Karaoke Biggie.
Hey, what up?
Go check out Karaoke Biggie.
Yes. It says, please stop with the 1-star reviews. These girls in ska are awesome. This is a true crime podcast with a comedic flair. If you can't understand that, please keep your 1-star reviews to yourself. Yay! Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
This is another Scott. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, thank you, Scott.
So yeah, go check out Karaoke Biggie. It's really fun. They do karaoke, and it's pretty funny.
And Scott has a good voice.
Yeah, Scott's pretty good to listen to.
Yeah.
I lost my spot. Where am I? Okay, here I am. All right. Last but not least, we have a 5-star review from Liz.
Hello, Liz.
Titled, Realistic Murder Talk, 100, 100. Oh, dang. Is that like 200?
Yeah.
Tight.
100 for you, Justine, and 100 for me. None for Scott.
Nice. Well, there's another 100 in here, so there's the third one for Scotty.
Oh, there you go. That's right. You were the afterthought.
Rude. All right. I love this podcast. The facts are presented in a conversational manner. Sometimes topics go adrift. True. Or they're not the most eloquent. True. But that adds to the vibe of the show. It's like listening to your friend talk about something they are really informed about. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Liz. Liz.
If you guys have left a 5-star review and we haven't read it, it's just because we can't see it, you know?
In due
I
time,
don't know what's
we will.
happening with iTunes reviews. They're a hot mess.
Yeah. And if you haven't left a 5-star review, please go do so. It helps other listeners find us. And keep sending those 5-star reviews. We love to read them. We love to see them. It makes our day. It makes us so much happy. It makes us so much happy.
It makes us so much happy.
Happier is what I meant to say.
Are those your transitions or are those your old glasses?
My transitions.
But she's inside. Burberry transitions. What up, baby? Moving up in the world.
No. Mm-mm. You wasted your money on a freaking name brand, on a what's it called? Designer brands, because you just put goofy ass transitions in them.
Don't be
You're
a
like
hater.
that kid. You're like that kid in middle school that wore their backpack down to their butt, and it was filled with books because they were the only ones actually doing their homework.
Actually, that's the total opposite of me.
That was a very weird simile, and I'm glad I went on the roller coaster ride that was that simile.
Yeah, that's where I went.
I didn't do my homework, and I didn't wear a backpack. that
we
hung
could
down
just
my back.
never hang out during the daytime when it's light.
Brittany
outside.
had the
We
roller
just can't do
backpack
it.
with that she had to pull around.
That's what I had.
Oh my god!
And
Those glasses you sure did.
It had her
I'm gonna
extra
buy you one right now.
Cortezes in there.
My what?
Your extra pairs of Cortezes in there.
Wow.
With the fat laces.
Ugh.
She's a chola in the streets and a nerd in the sheets.
What?
Sure.
Just roll with it. Just roll with it. I don't know what that means, but just go
Question
with it.
it. Just pretend it landed. It landed.
All right. So if you guys would like to follow us, you can do so on Facebook and Instagram. We're at It's About Damn Crime. Run it together, space it out. Will pop up. Press that follow button. We are also on Twitter and Snapchat at IADC Podcast. We also have a Facebook group. It's our name. It's About Damn Crime. Just answer the questions. We want to make sure that you're not a bot, and we'll let you in. There's some funny conversations that happen.
And memes.
And memes. And we just post just whatever we want to in that
Just
group.
nonsense.
It's mostly just talking shit.
Yeah. We have fun in there. So go join that. I think that's it for this.
Oh, I am back on Plenty of Fish. I took another break because it gets overwhelming sometimes. But also,
I feel like you say this every podcast.
absolutely not. Also, you haven't been here the past two podcasts, so.
Well,
sit
you
on
made
your
a whole
hands and
2
be
weeks,
quiet.
huh? Whole
Be
2
quiet.
weeks without
Be
POF, huh?
quiet. Be quiet. No, it's definitely been longer.
The willpower.
So maybe I'll schedule a date. Probably not.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, we'll see if next episode if Justine has a dating update.
Absolutely not. But I will post the funny
Probably not.
messages in the Facebook group.
Okay.
So if you want to check those out, go there.
Yeah.
I wonder how many of those funny ones that she posts that she actually replies to without us knowing.
None of them. I honestly reply to maybe one person out of 35.
3,500.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
All right,
True.
everyone. We'll catch you next week. Next week is the one with your dad, correct, Justine?
True. I mean, yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. We'll catch you next Wednesday. Be safe. Have a great weekend. The
And
rest
don't
of
roll
your
down your
week-
window.
Don't roll down
Yeah.
your window, especially if a deaf guy comes up there and says that he's deaf.
Yeah, because he doesn't need to hear you talk.
Yeah.
My mind is still blown. Crazy.
All right, love you guys.
Love you guys. Don't do it. Why are you looking? I feel you looking at me.
I love you.
Oh, gross. Hey, Brittany.
What?
Brittany, there's a lot of desert out there.
Hey! Which I
You
said
forgot.
to... Huh?
You forgot. So now roles have been reversed.
Which I said to the deaf guy.
Oh, dang. He didn't hear you.
It's also where it's also where that prison was. Yeah, that was good. Took a while to kick in, but that was good.
I'm gonna get in trouble for that.
That was a good one, though. Okay,
I don't take it back.
we officially got to go now. Okay, love you guys.
All right.
Bye.
Deuces.
Goodbye.